I'm Raquela of the Vegan Maven on Instagram, and I'm also the co-chair of Jewish Veg DC. And I'm here with a couple of my friends. Let me see if I can add them in for a second. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Raquela, it's Andrew, aka the Avocado Bro. Thanks so much for having me. This is so cool.
Okay, let's see who else I can add in. Hi, Samantha.
Hi, this is Samantha, also known as @gluten_free vegan. Good to be with all of you.
Good to see you.
Okay, and let's add in Maddie.
Hi.
Hi, Maddie.
Hey, Raquela, it's me, Maddie. I'm at the Jewish Vegan on Instagram.
Okay, hi guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. So, to everyone watching, I just want to put out a disclaimer. This is my first kind of multi-live that I'm doing. I'm usually accustomed to just jumping on Instagram and doing just myself one live video. So, this is the first time I'm doing it with all of my friends. And I'm not the most technically savvy person, so I will do my best and we'll see how it goes. But basically, like I said, let me see if people are joining us. Oh yeah, hi. So people are starting to join us. So I'll just introduce myself again briefly. I'm Raquela, and some of you know me as the Vegan Maven on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I'm also the co-chair along with Adam Gorod for the DC chapter of Jewish Veg. And what happened, as many of you know, we actually started out really strong here in DC with Jewish Veg with an awesome Veganuary event. And then we had this really ambitious 5-state Pesach Seder. We were going to do Seders in 5 states across the country, New York, LA, DC, Seattle, and I think Philly. And unfortunately, that all got canceled because of the situation. And a lot of people wrote to us asking us, what are you going to do? Are you going to do a virtual Seder? Are you going to do something else instead? And if you guys are interested, we're not doing a virtual Seder, unfortunately, but Jewish Veg has put out a lot of a Pesach series. They have like different videos sharing about the meaningfulness between the holiday of Pesach and freedom and Jewish veganism and our values and what it really means to celebrate this holiday about freedom. And as vegans, we know about that better than anyone else. So those have been really interesting. The other thing, I do have a link for anyone that is interested. Let's see if I can just put that up. 1 second. I'm not seeing it in my stream.
Are you watching?
Just 1 second.
Cool. Oh, you can see it. Cool.
I'm getting more.
Okay, I think I might have lost one of you for a second. I'll add you back in just a moment. But basically, I just wanted to share that if you go to jewishveg.org, that link at the moment. But if you go to jewishveg.org, there's a lot of information there about, here it is. Give you this. Are you seeing it now? I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm not the best. You can find a lot of information about how to do a vegan Seder. You can even download a free vegan Haggadah. So that's really interesting. So if anyone who was looking forward to attending our Seder, either here in DC or in any of the other 5 states, there's still a lot of resources at jewishveg.org for a vegan Pesach Seder. So that said, what we wanted to do today is jump on here. Let me put you guys all back. Okay. Hi. So we wanted to jump on here and share with you guys some of our favorite recipes that we will be having on our tables in about 3 days, actually. Yeah, I think Pesach's in about 3 days. So we have kind of a little bit of something for everybody. We have some classic recipes with a vegan twist. We have some classic recipes with a twist in general. What I'm sharing is Sephardic vegan charoset. And then we have some new recipes that might be something you haven't tried before. I know I haven't, but I definitely will be trying that. And Samantha is going to be sharing a new recipe that is not a traditional Pesach recipe, but I think it blends in well for a Seder dinner. And if anybody is gluten free, I think most of the recipes we're sharing today, maybe except, I don't know, Maddie, is your recipe gluten free?
No.
No. Okay. Besides that recipe, but it probably can be made gluten free as well, are gluten free, obviously kosher, and obviously 100% plant based. So I'm going to try to jump in to the recipes. Andrew, I know that you had some sort of work deadline. So if you maybe want to jump in first, that way if you need to jump off for any reason, you can go ahead and do that.
Sure.
So go ahead and introduce yourself to our community and then share with us why you chose this recipe and why it's special to you.
Absolutely. I'm Andrew, the Avocado Bro, on Instagram at the Avocado Bro, and on the World Wide Web as theavocadobro.com. Assuming I made a video clip, and assuming you play it, I kind of introduce the reasons why I came up with the recipe I did, and it's a vegan chopped liver. And at the risk of repeating myself in the video clip you're about to see, the recipe is I used to love chopped liver growing up as a kid, and when I became vegan, more than a decade ago, I discovered that there was a really delicious vegan chopped liver out there that I used to get at Whole Foods, made of made of green beans and walnuts. There are other versions of it that are made of lentils and mushrooms, which I haven't yet tried. And the Whole Foods version was so good, and unfortunately, they stopped making it with that recipe. It's not. They still have a vegetarian chopped liver, but it's not as good. And it's also not vegan anymore, unfortunately. It has eggs in it, and it doesn't have walnuts and green beans like the kind that they used to have. So I've been on a journey to find a recipe that matches what it used to be like. And as you'll see in this video clip, this is my attempt to recreate that. And I think it came out pretty nicely. Hey all you cool cats and kittens, Andrew the Avocado Bro here with one of my favorite Jewish holiday recipes, chopped liver, without the liver of course. About a decade ago, I was at Whole Foods and I saw on their deli counter they had vegan chopped liver. So I of course tried some, and it was incredible, and much to my shock, the main ingredients were green beans and walnuts. For years, I would bring that to whatever holiday dinner I was going to. And one year I played a trick on my cousin who liked to give me a hard time about being vegan. And I took the vegan chopped liver and I put it in 2 different bowls, and I told him one of these bowls was vegan and one was regular chicken-based chopped liver. And he tried both and without hesitation said the chicken-based chopped liver was much better. And then of course I made fun of him because they were both identical. They were both the green bean and walnut-based vegan chopped liver. So a few years later, I got another batch of vegan chopped liver at Whole Foods, or at least I thought that's what it was. It turns out Whole Foods changed the recipe on me. I took a few bites and it was bad. Just didn't taste good. And I looked at the ingredients, and sure enough, I didn't see walnuts, I didn't see green beans, and I even saw eggs were added to the ingredients. It wasn't even vegan anymore. That was a huge bummer. And as far as I know, that's what they still sell as vegetarian chopped liver at Whole Foods. So since then, I've been trying to recreate that original green bean and walnut-based chopped liver. I found a recipe on vegkitchen.com that used green beans and walnuts. I made a couple of my own tweaks. I didn't have lemon juice, which is on the recipe, but I did add vegan chicken stock. So let's try it out. Here's what you'll need: salt, olive oil, walnuts, onions, some vegan chicken stock, and green beans. Saute the onions in the olive oil, and I think now is a good time to add some of the salt. Those look pretty well sauteed to me. I'm going to throw the walnuts in there and lower the heat. I put all the ingredients in a bowl. Now I'm going to put it in the food processor. Let it chill in the fridge. And the finished product. Let's test it out. Really good.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for that. It looks actually pretty simple. Like when you first told me you were going to do chopped liver, vegan chopped liver, I was like, I don't know if I can swing that one, but I mean, it looks pretty simple from your clip. I just have to get walnuts. I think I don't have walnuts. I don't think I
Totally.
can find them.
The hardest thing for me was like every store is sold out of frozen veggies, and I wanted to get frozen green beans for this, and I luckily found some the other day. But it's been really hard to get a lot of vegan staples lately, you know, canned beans, and I know it's crazy.
Everybody's vegan. Everybody's
Exactly.
Beans and rice.
So, but luckily, yeah, I was able to get those things, and that was probably the biggest challenge, was actually getting the ingredients, just because of, you know, what's going on right now. But yeah, it's pretty simple and it tastes really good, and it, you know, it's not, to me, I'm not sure what kind of magic the old Whole Foods recipe used to have. And I've had other places that have catered a vegan version of it, and it's always so good. And, you know, for a homemade version, you know, with just a few simple ingredients, that gets really close, that recipe you saw. And I'm sure there are other ways to probably make it even better. And there are a lot of other alternatives. Some people use lentils, some use mushrooms, some use a combo, cashews. So
I think it's really great because for people who either, like myself, didn't grow up with the kind of a more American Ashkenazi diet. So for me, a simpler recipe is good to start out to try a dish like this. And also for people who might be going vegan this year, and this might be the first time that they're doing a vegan Seder. I think the simpler the better. At this point, I'm sure, like you said, there are probably other ways to do it and to try it, and people can always look on the internet. But to start out, for my first try, I'm gonna go with your simple recipe.
Awesome.
I'll let you know how it goes. I'm gonna use it for my Seder. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure. If anyone wants to, first of all, if anyone also, like Andrew, this was your childhood favorite recipe, please comment. We'd like to hear from you. And if any of you have questions for Andrew about the recipe, please also leave us a comment. Can we find that recipe, kind of a list of ingredients, anywhere on your Instagram?
I will post it. I'll make it a story where I got it from. It was this great website called vegkitchen.com. But I'll post a link to it on my stories in a few minutes.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
So go ahead and check that out if any of you want a written list of the ingredients. Thank you, Andrew. If you need to jump off, we completely understand. If not, we love you.
Cool. I'm going to stick around as long as possible.
Okay.
Thank you, Raquel.
Sure. I'm going to jump over to my friend Maddie. Let me add you in.
Hello.
Hi, Maddie. How are you?
Doing well.
In like about 2 months.
Yeah, it's been a while.
One quarantine month, and then before that, I think the last time I saw most of you guys was on Veganuary.
Yeah. Yep.
So how have you been? How have you been dealing with all of this? And what recipe are you sharing with us today?
I have been dealing with all this by sticking to a routine and also baking and cooking a lot, which has been nice. And my recipe that I'm sharing today is a matzo ball soup recipe, which I'm really excited about. I talk a little bit about this in the video that we're going to watch, but I really think matzo ball soup is like the best comfort food, which I think that we could all really use a little bit of comfort right now. And I really grew up with matzo ball soup. Like that's the one thing that I really remember from like the Passover Seders that I went to growing up. And I even remember like when I would go visit my grandmother, we would go out to eat and we'd get like matzo ball soup at the diners we went to. So it's always been kind of a staple for me. And so when I went vegan, thinking like I would never be able to have matzo ball soup again was really kind of sad. And then I decided like I'm not going to stand for that. I need to figure out how to veganize this recipe. And it took me a good 2.5 years to like get it down. But I think the recipe that I have now, I learned a lot from my grandmother. I had like a really long conversation with her about like how she does her recipe. And then slowly over time figured out like what it really takes to make it vegan and make it work so that you have those fluffy matzo balls. And yeah, I think that the recipe I have now will really work for you if you give it a try.
Okay, great. So let's jump into your recipe. Hopefully I can add it.
Oh, I also use the Manischewitz mix because that's what I like grew up using. It also makes it a lot easier, I think.
So that's actually a vegan mix.
Yep.
Oh, very cool. Okay, hang on 1 second. Where is your video? Here we are.
Hey y'all, I'm Maddie from @theJewishVegan on Instagram, and I'm really excited to share with you my recipe for matzo ball soup today. I actually call it Progress matzo ball soup because my grandmother taught me how to make matzo ball soup, and then I've veganized that recipe over time. And I don't know about you all, but I think that matzo ball soup is one of the greatest comfort foods there is, and I really think that we could all use a little bit of comfort right now. So I'm excited to share this recipe with you all. And yeah, let's get started. First, gather what you'll need for this recipe. 2 tablespoons of ground chia, 2 tablespoons of oil, 6 tablespoons and 10 cups of water separated, 1 box of Manischewitz matzo ball and soup mix, and veggies of your choice. I like to use celery, carrots, onion, and dill. Create your chia eggs by mixing 6 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of chia and letting them sit for 5 minutes. Next, mix the chia eggs into the oil with a fork until combined. Then mix the chia eggs, oil, and matzo ball mix with a fork until everything is stuck together. Let it sit in the fridge for 1 hour. When there's just 15 minutes left for your matzo balls, add your chopped veggies to your boiling soup. Lower the heat of your soup to medium-low and make your matzo balls. This is the most important part to ensuring your matzo balls stick together. Wet your hands between each matzo ball. Take about a teaspoon of mix in your hand and roll the ball between your palm. Then smooth out any cracks in the surface of the ball. You want the surface of your matzo balls to be crack-free and a little slimy to the touch. Recheck your matzo balls to ensure they are crack-free and slimy before dropping them into the soup. This is how much you want your soup to be bubbling when you drop your matzo balls in. After you finish making all of your matzo balls, you can begin putting them into the soup. Using a spoon, drop each matzo ball in one by one, then cover the pot. Make sure that the soup doesn't begin to bubble or boil more than I showed before. Let the matzo balls cook for 7 minutes, then immediately remove the pot from the burner. Enjoy your fluffy vegan
Enjoy your
matzo
fluffy
balls.
vegan matzo balls. I can't hear you, Raquel. It might just be me. Yeah.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? So I was saying that as some of you already know, I grew up in Israel. So some of these more like American or like Ashkenazi recipes weren't a staple for me growing up. So this is something that Eden really likes, my 7-year-old really likes. And I've tried a couple of them and it didn't really turn out. And I just saw that you said that you have to have the water boiling when you add them in. Not boiling, but like have a boil. So I think that's what I did wrong last time. I kind of put it in and so it got really soggy and she was like, this is not exactly it. So I will definitely try this recipe. I also never thought of using chia eggs, chia seed eggs. So that's another thing that I could. Why did you go with the chia egg instead of like, I don't know, another egg replacer?
Chia egg is like my go-to in basically everything. So it's like the thing I always pick for one thing. And so it was the first thing that I actually tried and it seemed to work pretty well to start with. But I think one of the the two biggest things is like really making sure that there are no cracks and that it's kind of like slimy so that it's got like this kind of protective layer around the outside. And then also the water is actually really, really important. It can't be like too hot or not hot enough because it'll like too much water will go into it or it'll like break apart because the water is moving too much.
So how long do I need to continue to cook or simmer or whatever after I've added the matzo balls?
7 minutes, exactly 7 minutes, and then you pull it right off.
Okay, 7 minutes. Okay, because for some reason, like I tried it once or twice and it just kept getting soggy. So I figured it might either be a timing thing or a texture thing. So so where can we find this recipe other than the video?
Yeah.
Are you going to list it? I know you actually have a new blog right now.
Yep. So I launched a website, the-jewish-vegan.com. And then if you go to my Instagram, you can click on Kosher for Passover guide. I created a guide with over 25 recipes, and this recipe is included in there.
Cool. Okay. So we can find it, find the website on your page.
Yeah. So the website is also on my Instagram. You can find it in like my bio. And then this recipe you can get to from the link in my bio as well through that guide.
Okay, very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know this is a very popular one here in the States.
Yeah.
So for anyone that is a new vegan, there you go. Have you experimented at all? One more question. Have you experimented at all with any gluten-free versions?
I haven't. I've always used the Manischewitz mix. Now that I've like perfected it this way, my goal is to do them from scratch, and then I might try to do them with a gluten-free like matzah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks so much for sharing.
Yeah.
So if anybody also, again, if anyone has questions for Maddie about the matzo balls or just in general, or anyone grew up with that being their favorite recipe as well, please comment and let us know. And at the end, we will take your questions. I'm going to jump over to another friend. Samantha, where are you?
Hi.
Hi, Samantha. Welcome.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
I'm doing well. Excited for this. Thank you for having me. How are you?
How have things been for you with the quarantine and everything?
Well, I'm usually a pretty social person, and it's sometimes hard for me to not be around other people. So it's really nice to do things like this and be able to join things online to make me feel more connected.
That's so true. That's why we wanted to do this. Great. So, what recipe do you have for us today, and why did you choose this recipe?
Sure. So I chose a quinoa salad. I chose this because, as my Instagram handle kind of says, I'm gluten free and vegan. And I've been gluten free since I was 11 and vegan since I was 14. So I'm 21 now. So it's been a while. And Pesach is always a time of restrictions, for everyone, but especially for me because I already have such a restricted diet. And I try to keep to, the diet as much as I can. It is challenging, but quinoa, I found out, is something that is kosher for Passover, and it's a great grain, and I love it. So I end up eating a lot of it on Pesach. So I just thought I would show you something simple and refreshing that I tend to eat on the holiday.
Okay, cool. Let me try to jump into your video.
You pour the quinoa in the water. You should soak it for as long as you can or rinse it many times to get the bitterness out. Put the quinoa in the rice cooker with water and let it cook. We chopped the parsley and put it in a bowl, rinsed it many times to get all the sand out. You slice the celery down the center. So it makes finer pieces. Take the outer layer of the purple cabbage off. Shred the purple cabbage on a diagonal to get a nice piece. Garlic. You smash it with your knife, and you can peel it easily. It's the proper knife position. See how you tuck your fingers under so that you don't cut yourself. And you peel the skin after you've already started to cut it so that it's easier to peel. Then you chop it. Half, and then you take the seeds out with your knife so that you don't have any pesky seeds. Then you squeeze it into your hand so you can catch the seeds. So then you let the juice fall into the salad. Then you get the rest of the pulp out and the juice out with your knife. Here's the oil. We mix a little bit of pepper into the oil. And then we mix it again, fluffing it carefully. Look at all those colors. Now we slice the carrot on an angle. Spice, you can use something like this. This is the mixed spices from Pereg. It's a shawarma seasoning, and it's kosher Passover and year-round. It on a nice brightly colored plate. And now it goes in for the taste test. Mmm. Delicious. The crunch, the acidity, the little bit of spice, the nice texture between the quinoa and the other vegetables. It's a perfect side dish for your Seder or for any day on Pesach. Hi.
Hi. Yeah,
Sure.
sorry, I was just unmuting myself. That was great. And actually, I noticed you did something that, even though I cook almost like daily, I guess, by this point, I'm not good at, and that's the garlic. Like, you just took them out so easy. I was like, what is that? Because I'm always filling with garlic and half of them fall on the floor. And so, like, if I was trying to get 2, I have to go through 6 to get 2. So what you just and then you cut
Well,
everything.
thank
so
you. My mom
professional?
actually
Wow.
helped me with it. She has taught me a lot how to
Oh,
cook.
okay.
And she kind of taught me those. Yeah, she's like taught
Yeah,
me
your
those
mom.
little tricks. My mom Lynn, so some of you know her. And so yeah, I think I've learned some of the ways to chop more easily from her because it is tricky. I used to not be very good with a knife at all.
So is this something that you're gonna have at your
Yeah,
Seder?
it's gonna be a small
3 days?
Seder, but yeah, I will. I'm used to having big Seders with lots of friends and family, as most of us probably are. But yeah, I will probably have this, and I'm looking forward to it. At least we get to be together, even if it's only my family.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your recipe.
Sure, thank you for having me.
So, like I said before, anybody have questions for Maddie about her, for Samantha about her recipe, or just questions in general, or love quinoa or gluten-free, go ahead and comment or leave us a question and we will answer them towards the end. I'm going to try to share my recipe with you guys. Where is my recipe? Oh, here it is. So before I jump in, I want to say that I come from a very big family by American standards. So they are 6 of us in my family. I am the eldest of 6 children. So 6 of us plus my parents was at least 8 people around the table for Pesach or whatever holidays we were celebrating. And I think this Passover is a really interesting one for everyone. It's a really interesting time because I feel like in a way we're experiencing something that our ancestors experienced because they were told to stay in your homes and let the plague pass. And that's basically what we're doing now. We're staying in our homes and staying safe and letting the plague pass over us. So I feel as Jews and as a Jewish community, we're well equipped to deal with this. And as Jewish vegans, I feel that we can gather around and be grateful for the fact that we know that we're truly celebrating the meaning of freedom by having a cruelty-free vegan Passover. So the recipe that I choose to share with you guys today, I cannot take credit for at all, actually, because this is my mom's recipe. I changed one little thing, maybe 2 little things, to veganize it. It is the recipe for Sephardic vegan charoset. And this is kind of the version, well, this is my mom's version, but it's a similar version that is done in kind of the Middle East or the Sephardic community. I have an interesting background. I grew up in the States and in Israel, so partly in the States, partly in Israel, probably with the majority of that time being Israel. But so I grew up mostly Ashkenazi, kind of in, when I went to shul or worshiped or anything like that. But the cooking and the flavors and stuff like that is greatly influenced by my growing up in the Middle East and I guess whatever was available and the foods and the flavors that they had there. So I'm going to try to share my recipe with you guys. This is a recipe again for Sephardic vegan charoset. So let's jump into the ingredients that we're going to need to complete this recipe. I've laid out everything here that you're going to need, starting with our apples. You're also going to need 1 cup of regular raisins or dark raisins, a 1/2 cup of golden raisins, a 1/2 cup of pitted and chopped dates, about 1 cup of sliced almonds. You can also use walnuts if you like. You can use pecans if you like. I like the taste of almonds, and it's the way that my mother always did it, so I'm going to go ahead and use the sliced almonds. For your spices, you're going to need a 1.5 tablespoons of cinnamon. I have here just organic cinnamon. And I like to add in a sprinkle, literally just a sprinkle of either pumpkin spice or nutmeg if you have that at home. And then for the liquids, we have here about 5 tablespoons of organic grape juice. And then I have about 1/3 cup of organic maple syrup. So that replaces our honey in this recipe. So this is all the ingredients that you're going to need for our Sephardic vegan charoset. So let's jump into the recipe. So we're going to start by using our vegetable peeler to peel our apples. You're then going to core them and slice them into pieces before dicing them. And coring your apples, you definitely want to slice them up and then into smaller pieces like these dice-sized pieces I have here. Then add them to your bowl. It should look like this. Now for the fun part. We're going to start by putting in our 1 cup of dark raisins, followed by our 1/2 cup of golden raisins. Lovely. And we're going to put in our dates. Perfect. Now we're going to add in our almonds. 1 cup of almonds. And our spices. So we're going to add in our cinnamon first. And a touch of our pumpkin spice. Finally, we're going to add in our liquid ingredients. So So we're gonna add in our grape juice. And we're going to add in our maple syrup. And we're going to stir it all together again to combine everything one final time. Your final result should look like this. And I decided that mine might need a little more moisture. If you think yours is a little too dry, it depends on your taste, but if you think yours is a little too dry, you can go in and add a little more, maybe like a tablespoon or two more of grape juice. However, the other thing you can do is add in some applesauce. So I decided to add in 2 tablespoons of applesauce. I'm using this organic unsweetened applesauce from Trader Joe's. So here you have it, the final result of our Sephardic vegan charoset. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I added just like a strawberry and some grated walnuts on top for a garnish, but you don't have to do that. As you can see, we made quite a lot, so if you happen to be quarantined with your family, this will definitely be enough for everyone. If you're quarantined by yourself, then this will last you for the entire week of Passover. Let me know what you guys think. I really enjoyed sharing this recipe, and I'd love to hear from you guys if you make the recipe and how it turned out for you. There we go. The only thing that changed is I subbed in maple syrup. You can also use date syrup for the honey that my mother used when we were growing up. I don't know if some of you know already, but I've been vegetarian for a very long time and then vegan for about 10 years now. So growing up, we didn't use honey, but since going vegan, I've subbed in maple syrup. Sometimes I've subbed in date syrup or date, like blended the dates myself and made a thick paste and then put them in. I've also used agave. It's not my favorite. I would probably recommend using the date syrup if you can find it. I couldn't find it right now, so I used maple. An interesting fact about dates, by the way, in Hebrew, and actually when it kind of mentioned the land of milk and honey anywhere in the Torah, they're actually talking about date nectar. Like date nectar was the honey of the Bible. So in a way, we're still using honey if you're using date syrup. But that's just an interesting fact. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about that recipe, or if you try it, please let me know. I will put it up on my page, The Vegan Maven on Instagram. And also this clip will be on Jewish Veggies YouTube. So if you guys missed it or you want to share it with someone, or there's someone that was thinking in your life that was thinking of doing a vegan Passover Seder and they want some inspiration, they can go ahead and view this video. You can share it with them after we're done. So I'm going to jump into the questions and see if I have any questions and add you guys all back in. I think Andrew might have needed to leave. Andrew, are you there? I think he might have left. Okay, so while I'm looking for the questions, I wanted to ask you guys, what was or what is kind of the main difference for you since going vegan? And I know like for some of us it's been a while, but what is the main difference like with Passover Seders in general since going vegan that you've noticed, or just maybe misconceptions that friends who are non-vegans ask you about Passover? Like I sometimes get questions like, how can you have a Seder plate if you're not going to have those key items like the bone, the shank bone, or whatever. So what are some of those either misconceptions or things that have been easy for you when you transitioned and you were surprised, like, hey, I can do this? Anybody?
Sure. When I was younger, we would often go to like a communal synagogue Seder where there was like a big piece of meat as the main dish. So that's been a big change because even when we've gone to communal Seders in the past few years, we end up eating a lot of side dishes or things like that if we're at a place that's not very vegan friendly. And when we make it ourselves, we obviously get to be more creative. But eating out for Seder can be a challenge just because that meat or fish tends to be the main dish. And by the time you get to the main dish, you're so hungry that you like,
Right.
you know, because it's so late in the night usually,
Right.
that you like want to eat something. So
So have you ever like brought your own dishes to communal Seder just because to have something to eat?
Yeah, actually, I did one time, and that was good. And also, I had a friend who made a totally vegan Seder, which was also very cool. When everything was vegan, and I could try everything.
Very cool. What about you, Maddie? Any differences you've noticed or misconceptions people have?
Yeah. I think I was going to say something similar when I was in college and I went to like other like organizations, Seders. It was very, I would say, not vegan friendly. It was like one year I remember the only thing that I could eat were like roasted beets. And I was like, I got through the whole Seder. I had matzah. I had horseradish. And then the only thing I could eat was beets. And I was devastated because I was so hungry. But then once I started like hosting my own Seders and had more control over what was like actually happening, I found I've loved Passover because I'm really into storytelling, and that's kind of like what Passover is, like retelling the story. And so brought a lot of joy back to Passover for me because I was able to bring other people into this space and like bring kind of this vegan element to it, and share some of like the creative ways to have a Seder plate and use, instead of having the like shank bone or whatever, use a roasted beet, or instead of using egg, use an avocado pit. And so some of those creative ways that people have come up with to represent kind of the same ideas but in a vegan way has been cool.
That's interesting that you said the avocado pit. I hadn't heard that one before. Is that was gonna be on your Seder plate this year?
Yeah, I have a Haggadah that I've created, and that's kind of, it has like a Seder. It's like for new people because I often have like new people come over who've never celebrated Passover before. I have like, I don't really have a lot of family members in the area, but I have a lot of friends who are not necessarily Jewish, and I have them come over for Passover. And so it explains like all of the symbolism behind everything. And so, yeah, it has like a picture of a Seder plate, and it has like what each of the things means. And yeah, and an avocado pit is one of the things that's on there.
And is that something that you just came up with, or?
I did a lot of research online for other things that people who have spent more time thinking about it have come up with.
Oh.
Not me. I just kind of like brought it all together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the flour like instead of the egg. So for me, growing up, my parents did, the regular Seder, not as long because, like I said, there's 6 kids. Our Seders were never really long because we weren't going to have 6 kids that are going to sit through that. I think for me, the most interesting experience I had, so then, of course, going vegan, I just did it at home, either by myself, and then eventually when I had a family with my family. But 2 Passovers ago, or was it last Passover? Last Passover, I went to Jewish Vege's New York Seder because at that point there was no DC chapter, so we didn't have one here. And that was the first time. And at that point, I had like heard about Jewish Veg a few months earlier, and so I went to their Seder in New York, and that just blew me away. Like that got me so motivated, so re-energized, just about all that is Jewish veganism. Because I feel like I was thinking about, I'm also watching this show on Netflix, which is sort of related, called The Hunters. I don't know if anybody else is watching it. So it's this story about like these Jewish Holocaust survivors that find out that they are Nazis living among us in the United States and in like the 70s or something. And so they set out to find these people and bring justice to them. And so, long story short, just like looking at that around this Passover time and just thinking about like how our ancestors were slaves back, way back when in Egypt, according to the story, and then like everything we've gone through as a people, and watching the show and seeing some of the things that Holocaust survivors went through, and thinking about, Jewish veganism and how to really live out our values and really be true to ourselves, you kind of have to be a Jewish vegan. I mean, like, it's a lot of the same, indifference and cruelty that we suffered as a people. Our animal friends, brothers and sisters in a lot of ways, are suffering as well. And I feel like to live your fullest, to be most connected to your Jewish values, having a Jewish, a vegan Seder for Passover is the way to go. It's kind of the only way to go. And so I said that to say that, yeah, when I went to the Seder in New York, that just blew me away, and it added so many new nuances of understanding to the Seder that I thought, hey, I'm Jewish. I grew up with this my whole life, just to the meaning behind it. So basically, their Seder, they had a rabbi, and I think their program director, Sarah, was there as well. And they basically went through the Seder plate and explained to everyone like why we are using these replacement items, and why a lot of them are even allowed to. People just don't know it. Like the beet, for instance, I heard it's allowed either in the Mishnah or the Talmud. Somebody correct me on which one. I'm sorry if you can't hear me. There's like a train in the back of my house. Hang on. Yeah, so the beet is actually allowed by the rabbis as a replacement in either the Mishnah or the Talmud or something. And this is something like you'd never hear about, and it's never talked about in mainstream Judaism. And then they also explained like the flower in all its bloom and how that represents like new birth and fertility, and more than an egg ever will. So that was a really good experience. The food was delicious. Like the meal they had afterwards, I can't remember everything they had, but I know they had this like sweet potato quiche thing that was really delicious. It was catered, but it was all vegan. And it was just amazing to sit there like in a room full of Jewish vegans, and there were probably 70 people there or more. And that was, I think, probably in a lot of ways, even though I cherish the um, experiences I had as a child with my family, that's still, I think, for me, probably the highlight of Pesachs in my life. And so, yeah, I'm a little bummed that we didn't get to do our own here in DC. But, this too will pass. We'll be back eventually. So let me see if I have any questions. A lot of people are just saying yum, looking for the recipes. Um, I don't think I have any questions at this point. Yeah. Okay, so
Well,
go ahead.
I thought of adding one more thing about the Seder and veganism.
Sure.
Some of the main parts of the Seder are already vegan, like the dipping the parsley or the potato in salt water, and so that's an extremely important part, and that's vegan. And or like the Hillel sandwich thing where you put the charoset and the maror, that's already vegan. So there are some important parts of the Seder that are already veganized.
Yeah. Probably not vegan. It probably was the other way around. Like it was vegan originally, and then
Right.
and then they aside from the lamb. And actually, I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know it for a fact, but I'm just throwing it out there. It's just a thought. I don't actually remember it saying anywhere. Like I remember that you needed like the lamb to like put whatever over the blood over the doors or whatever. And then, but then after that, I don't think it was supposed to be like a yearly thing to eat the lamb. I think it was like that time, that plague, that winter. But I don't know. I might be wrong. But it's just a thought. I don't see any questions. So I don't see any questions at the moment. So I will mention one more time that we do, like I said, have a vegan Haggadah that's amazing that you can download for free at jewishveg.org. And I think next week, I'm not completely sure yet, but if it's gonna happen, we'll put out an announcement. Next week we might be having another live with a local rabbi that's going to be kind of sharing about the significance of the different items on the plate next Monday. So that's going to be the 13th. So kind of the date of our original Seder, that our original Seder was planned. So that's going to be interesting if that happens. So I want to thank you all for joining me for this and taking the time to jump on. And I hope you're all staying safe and entertained as best you can and treasuring this time with your loved ones. Because I mean, how many times have you said, like, I wish I had more time to do X, Y, Z, plan something, launch something, just be with your family. And, maybe in some ways the universe is listening and giving us that time. And in the grand scheme of things, I mean, we're being asked to sit on our couches, and we're living in a time when we can connect with each other like this, versus living in a time when, if they said quarantine yourself, it really meant quarantine yourself. Like this, in a moment, I can jump on, talk to you guys, talk to my friends, connect with my community. So I think it's not all that bad. I know, as it drags on, there are going to be moments that it's going to be hard. You're going to get like cabin fever or blues or whatever. Go outside, take a walk, remind yourself that this too will pass, and it's not the worst thing we've been through as a people at all, or in general in the world and in our planet. And I think in a lot of ways, it's the planet needed a rest. I mean, like, what everybody's social distancing like this, less pollution, less people driving their cars. The planet is getting a bit more of a rest. I think it's probably better for the animals, better for the environment in a way. So it might all be good. We never know. We never can always see the silver lining. So thank you guys again for joining me. Maddie, Samantha, Andrew, who I think had to jump off. I thought this went pretty good for the fact that I don't know much about technology. Maybe we can do it again sometime. Maybe we can do like Shabbat for Shabbat. There's actually this concept called the mukbang where people like eat and talk to each other live. And I was thinking of doing this cool concept called like a cooking bong, like a cooking bong where you like cook together for Shabbat. So if you guys are interested, we can probably talk about that sometime. If you guys have the time, we could do a live.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. So everyone, please go and follow all of these wonderful people. The Jewish vegan, gluten-free vegan. Samantha, what's your deal?
Yeah, at gluten_free vegan.
Yeah. At the Avocado Bro, and myself, the vegan maven. And we'll see you guys soon. Chag Sameach, everybody.
Chag Sameach. Thank you.